Thank you everyone for coming again. I expected 2 people to turn up. So, yeah.
Ukir Geshe Totam Renunciation embodies Sangha Shindu Nitevargi Drokun Nanda Shinla Tripasho Yang Guru Mandalakam Niyatayami Chidam Zaki Jagnaman Jamshu Bardu Dapni Gapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pesonanki Drola Pinchir Sangha Tripasho Chidam Zaki Jagnaman Jamshu Bardu Dapni Gapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pesonanki Drola Pinchir Sangha Tripasho Chidam Zaki Jagnaman Jamshu Bardu Dapni Gapsuchi Daki Jinyengi Pesonanki Drola Pinchir Sangha Tripasho.
For those of you who are new, sorry I didn't explain what that was. It's a bunch of noise that whilst you're doing it, your mind should be thinking of a couple of things. We've just entered a room where hopefully for the next 2 hours, your mind will occupy a space that is unlike the space you occupy the rest of the day. If there is such a thing as enlightenment or Buddhahood, the ultimate evolution of a human consciousness, and whatever names or labels we put onto that space, then something causes that, and it begins with a kind of motivation. So very simply, to begin any kind of teaching, the first couple of things we do is we imagine that there are evolved beings, evolved minds, and just our mind imagining it begins to place some seeds in our minds to allow that to come about. But if you can imagine the most evolved being that there is, and then imagine a universe that's void of any kind of suffering. That's what that is. That's the representation of any universe that is void of any kind of suffering, and in fact it's filled with every kind of bliss you could ever imagine. So if you imagine every single happiness you've ever had in your entire life up to this point and condensed it in a millisecond, that every bliss that you've had, every smile, every joy, every time you got that new job, you fell in love, you saw a baby, you had amazing sex, whatever it was, and you condense it all into a millisecond, and that drop, then you expand through time, you fill that universe with that, and you offer it to a being that is of that evolved kind. And that becomes the course of you becoming that kind of being. That's one thing. And the other one, the other sounds we make in Tibetan, the motivation for that is about taking some kind of refuge which creates a belief in your mind and in your heart that there actually is something that can refuge you from nominal suffering in this world, from death, sickness, old age. There actually is something. And that's what the course is about. What is that something that can stop us from hurting? In the relative sense, in the mental sense, in the physical sense. things change. And if you find the causes for that kind of change, then you can remove the ultimate suffering. The ultimate suffering, which is a perpetuating cycle of suffering. So these are all code words for stuff that's coming later, and I hope it makes some sense. I don't want to sound like some blah blah guy. So I hope that you've got the right motivation when we're doing those fun things, to realize that the next 2 hours are precious. There is a possibility for you to change. It's not for anyone else other than up to you to make the necessary shifts in your consciousness to allow that next step wherever you're at. So hopefully in the next 2 hours, if you hold that kind of mindset, that it is possible and that there are courses to achieve that kind of evolved form of consciousness for you, and if you can figure that out, then you can help the people you love figure it out too. We'll talk more about that in a second. So that's why we do those funny things, and we'll learn those over the course of the next 12 weeks. And for those of you who are doing more than 12 weeks, you're doing the 5-year course for the marathon, then you're going to learn that deeply, and hopefully it doesn't just become an intellectual exercise, but it becomes something that your entire day is imbued with. And you can walk out in the same streets that you walked in from today, and as the rain hits you or the cold hits your face, or you see a homeless person or you see something in the street, instead of feeling yucky, you're feeling amazing. And it's not a pretend thing, it's actually an impulse that comes to you. Hopefully that can happen if you put these things into practice. So, a couple of things. Who's never meditated or never got instructions on meditating, or doesn't really think they know how to meditate? So that's me included, by the way. So serious. So the next part, so when we come in to change that mindset, change gears from the outside world. This is a different world you're creating now. We want to imagine the thing that's on top of your mind, that's disturbing your mind. Imagine that you never had it for 2 hours. Yeah? Imagine it in your mind, wrapped up in an envelope, placed in a steel cage and chucked outside, and it's waiting for you at the front for you to open it when you come out. Yeah? You can step over it and avoid it, or you can leave it there. But imagine for the next 2 hours, if it was possible, that you could leave that thing behind, whatever your main concern is for today, and open your mind up to a possibility that there's more that you could get out of today that's beyond that kind of state of mind. If you do that, and if you actually visualize that thing, put it in a bottle, in a box or something, and say, your mind can pick it up later, really. You don't have to be thinking about it for the next 2 hours. It won't help you thinking about it for the next 2 hours. It doesn't serve you thinking about it for the next 2 hours. For the next 2 hours, you might get something else that might actually solve that thing altogether. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little tiny meditation. I'll guide you through it for those of us who don't know how to do it. And basically, posture-wise, you just need to be seated comfortably so your body doesn't become a distraction. And this is changing gears in your mind from backwards world to neutral world, so we can go forward into a magnificent world. It's possible. So take a seated position that's comfortable. Your hands can be either here or here if you're really warm, because that leaves this thing open. If you're freezing cold, you could do this kind of thing, where these two thumbs are at your navel. And if you've got a big tummy like me, then the navel comes out to reach the two thumbs. So you know you're doing it well. And then just decide that you're not going to let your body distract you just for the next few minutes. Yeah? And enter that zone that is your mind, the thing that's listening to the voice, the thing that's trying to interpret all the data that's coming from the senses, the smells, the touches, the tastes, the feelings, all these things. Just remove yourself from those and try and find that thing that is the core of you, the interpreter of all those things. We're going to get there slowly. All I want you to do is bring that you to focus on the sensation of your breath as it comes in and out of your mouth. So your eyes should be half closed. Your tongue should be towards the front of the top of your teeth, near your palate, the back of your front teeth. Your back should be straight. And once you've settled your body, decide that you're not going to pay attention to it. And we're just going to count our breaths. As you breathe out and then you breathe in, that's one round and it's one. Then you breathe out and you breathe in through your nose, just naturally without forcing it, that's a 2. And I'd like you to do that up to 10 and keep the watching mind observing the sensation of the breath as it comes out the nose and in the nose, the tip of the nostrils, the subtle movement of the hairs there. And each out and in is 1. Count up to 10. If your mind gets distracted by some other thoughts and you catch it, start at 1 again until you get up to 10. We'll do that for a few minutes. If you have distractions, it's a beautiful thing because it allows you to refocus. So just feel good that you've caught it and begin counting again. Now we're going to go a little deeper. And I want you to think of your motivation for being here, for being attracted to whatever attracts you to come to these things. What are you seeking and what's that seeking? Where did that come from? What are you hoping for? What are you wishing? Unashamedly look for it and expand it a little bit. Be clear about your motivation for learning these things. Be clear about your motivation for wanting to improve, to expand and evolve. Sit on that for a while. Now, without any rules, imagine the most evolved being you could ever imagine, a mind that is supreme, that knows all things. The most evolved form of being you can imagine. And it can be a person that you know that you admire. It could be a story from childhood, it could be a mythology, it could be a god, it could be a Buddha, it could be Christ. The most perfect example of a being that's most evolved. That's supreme. Imagine that and its qualities. Think what you admire about them. And ask them to come and watch them float and sit in front of you. Feel their closeness to you. watch them connect with you, they're happy with you, they're smiling at you. Think of their good qualities, the best quality you can imagine of them, the one you admire the most, and feel a sense of reverence for it. Something that makes you bow your head with respect. And to get closer to them, think back on today and think of something you did that you weren't very proud of, a mistake, something that caused some suffering in your world, whether you've argued with someone or yelled at someone or had negative thoughts about somebody, wanted to hurt someone. Something that is the opposite of what you really want to feel. You want to feel happiness. If you did any of those things today, collect them, feel them, own them, and share them with this being in front of you. Open up to them, let them see it. Feel some deep sense of regret. For having done those things. It's not guilt. It's a wishing that you hadn't done those things, because they'll produce an equal result at some future time. And it's not what you want. Allow that sense of regret to grow inside of you into a commitment to try not to do that kind of thing again. And that being in front of you with the evolved mind understands that process. They came from that. And they're happy with you. Now think of the most amazing thing you did today. The deepest goodness, the one that made you happy. You made some effort towards something positive. You made somebody feel good. You gave somebody else some joy. Imagine that joy you created in the world, that goodness. And expand it a little. Feel that sense of joy in your heart. Allow yourself to enjoy it again. Unashamedly admit that you did something good. Now imagine the multitude of human beings on this planet doing good things today, and have a joy for them. They created some goodness in the world. Feel what it's like to be happy, and be happy for them. Now bring your attention back to this being in front of you, the one you admire. Lock eyes with them, and genuinely from your heart, ask them if they could please teach you how to become like them. And you see them agree and smile back. They're going to plant little things that will make you become like them in your world. Now ask them always to stay, that state of mind to always stay around you, in your consciousness and in your world. And you see them agree. And as they do, imagine them floating up, facing the same direction you're facing, and shrinking down to the size of a thumb, floating just above the tip of your head, bright and light. Their expression of wisdom becomes light. Try and feel the sensation of that energy floating just above you. Whatever the nuances of that wisdom is, they're touching you with there and filling your body. Let them stay there for the next 2 hours, guiding you to wisdom. When you're ready, just open your eyes. Welcome all the holy beings in the room. Did you notice your mind change a little bit from when you first came in to now? Silence. This is an interactive Buddhist class. So for those of you who are new to that kind of visualization, I have to admit, and I think I did this last time, it all freaked me out a little bit at the beginning. You know, it was a little strange. So I hope if it is like that for you, you bear with it. I was embarrassed to imagine somebody amazing. I'm like, I don't want to feel something nice. It's a bit dorky, you know? Like, and yet I wanted to be happy. So I didn't reconcile these two things, allowing myself to genuinely feel happiness, because I was embarrassed. What if somebody was watching me? You know, I couldn't imagine. I didn't know what a Buddha was, you know? I didn't know what Buddhism was, and I didn't know what this most evolved being meant. You know, that, like I said, the best I could master was Joseph Campbell. You know, and so he became my practice for about a year. For those of anyway, Joseph Campbell. I want to know, for those of you who were not here last week, we've just begun a marathon of a 5-year course. This is class 2, so there's about 5 or 6 classes before people can come in and really feel the essence of this class and move it on to class 2 and 3 and 4. Sorry, course 2 and 3 and 4. Before they might get a little lost. Yeah, so you've got a foundation. And in fact, today we're going to get into some nitty-gritty of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy and logic. But before we go there, I need to spend at least 20 minutes checking that who's doing their quizzes, by the way? Who's doing their home? Yeah, good. Good. So I'm going to let you finish that. And then I'm just going to review with you what you got out of last week. So the next, let's say 2 minutes, let's do quizzes. And then for those of you who are not doing quizzes, maybe you want to copy some of these things down on your book and we'll go through them again. So we'll just have a couple of minutes of quiz time. Anyone need more time for the quizzes? No? Hayley, where are you? There you are. Can you pass the quizzes over to...
And homeworks too, if you have homeworks.
And homeworks. And this will be the way we do it. If you're doing homeworks and quizzes, and like I said last week, I didn't do them for the first few months, and I wish I had, because I didn't force my brain to get these things, and this is really the foundation. So if you can I should have put more effort at the beginning for me to get the things later on, and I wish I'd done it, and I didn't for a long time. So if you can afford just 10 minutes in a week, it will just, and you can cheat, you can look at the answer sheets, you can totally cheat, but it'll get another level of knowledge in your mind that will allow the content of this class to get deeper in your heart. So this is the interactive part of the class where all of you don't have to look so serious and look a little bit smiley. I want to know what you actually remember, so forget homeworks, forget quizzes, because this is about having something in your heart and in your lives that can actually transform you. If it's just a psychological exercise for you, go to Columbia University, they'll teach you all the ins and outs of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, all the right words, and they'll teach you really well, much better than me. I don't know how to do that stuff. Yeah? We're very fortunate to come from a lineage of Tibetan lamas, along with the lineage from the Dalai Lamas, who are using these concepts to transform their consciousness. And so that's what we hope to do in the next period together. It's no use in getting stuff in your head if you still have to go outside and collect those iron boxes that you left out there with all your sufferings. There's no use in going through some kind of knowledge exercise that lets you still suffer in the normal way that not most people suffer. How can I tell you? This is the big audacity of Buddhism, okay? Freaked me out when I first heard it, and I'm a little embarrassed to tell you, so I'm going to tell you. Yeah. We'll learn what a Buddha is. What's a Buddha? What's enlightenment? What do they mean by wisdom? What does suffering really mean, and where does it come from? Those things we're going to find out in the next 11 weeks. There's specific meanings to those things, and they're relevant to your everyday. The audacity of these teachings, which are incredible, say to you, it doesn't have to be the way that we think it is. Our view of the world, this normalizing of having bodies and minds in this world that makes them birth, age, get sick and die, does not have to be that way. When I first heard that, I'm like, don't say that, I'm normal, everyone's dying. And in fact, just a few days ago, I have a 90-year-old godmother in Argentina who was like my mum, and she went missing for 2 days. So I've got friends in Argentina call me up going, we don't know where she is. And I had to consider the very real possibility that she was in the bathtub, unconscious. Nobody could get into her apartment. And I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I knew that she was old, I knew that she was sick. I also knew her sister lived to 104, so, I sort of, 10 years. And that kind of limited thinking that I have, knowing things intellectually and not feeling them, is what trips us over to go through life as if things are just the way they are, and I'm not going to get old, I'm not going to lose my hair, I'm not going to lose my thinking, my mind, my realizations. When you have aha moments, the condition of this world, the way it normally is that they also go away. Isn't it harder to learn when you're older, we think? Yeah, in the normal way of thinking. So the stuff we get, we lose here. So this philosophy says that does not have to be that way. That's actually upside down. If everything in the universe has a cause, including our experience of being alive, including life itself, if we find the right courses, we could keep that lifeness and that aliveness and explode it, make it massive. It doesn't even have to be restricted to this body. And then you get into this metaphysics and your outside comfort zone. That's what was embarrassing to me. So in essence, what we're learning is how not to die, how not to experience our body aging, our mind disintegrating. So my godmother missing for 2 days, I get frightened. So I call a friend that I'm not supposed to contact down there, and that's another story for class 8 or something. And then, seriously, we have to be much more familiar for that story. And I contact that person and I say, I can't find my godmother, can you do me a favor and knock on her door or find a number of a relative that I don't have a number for. And they say, I will, but you need to know my dad died yesterday. You know, and I was full of my own worry and full of my own moment. And he is a person going through some trauma that is very real for them. And it brought to light how, you know, this concept, oh, she might be sick or she might be blah, but then I began to get this sensation that, wow, my world is caving in because somebody I love is disappearing. You know, I had no confirmation, I just had that thought. And then it hits me in the face that, you know, I'm not the only person on the planet going through this suffering. And in this case, in this particular case, this person was going through something way stronger than mine was an idea. Theirs was a reality. How do you live from one moment when your father's next to you and you can see them and talk to them, and the next second, the second after, they're not moving? What do you do in your mind? Especially when someone calls you up and goes, hey, I need a favor, because the rest of the world is going on normally. And then the next day you wake up and everybody else is going to work, buying ice cream, and you've got this thing inside of you. Yeah. I don't know if some of you have had the misfortune of having that experience, but the normalizing of that experience is also horrific. It's actually more horrific. You let that pass for a week or two, a month. My dad's died 1.5 years now. Doesn't feel the same. You know? So Buddhism says it doesn't have to be that way, this rising and decaying of things. It can be the opposite. And that's a big claim. That's why the course is 5 years. Sorry. I just don't want to go too heavy, but it's the purpose for the class. And it's not an intellectual exercise. Yeah? You will get enough information in this class, hopefully, if I'm capable enough to deliver you what I've learned and what comes from over 2,000 years of knowledge, of people internalizing these things and sharing them experientially with us, to put these things into practice and remove some, if not all, of those things. So a couple of disclaimer. I am not a Buddha. Yeah. I am not even a great person, I don't think. Yeah. I've found almost irrefutable logic and some amazing moments. For those of you who were here last week, remember the movie Out of Sync stuff? So we live this world, we were born into this world, and it's like the visual and the soundtrack are out of sync by months. Yeah, and you open your eyes as a newborn, and that's how the world is. You don't know that things could be in sync. You see a mouth moving, but it doesn't say what we know it should say. Yeah, the sounds don't match the visual. That's this life. Every now and then, if you've practiced these things well, there's a syncing up of that. And you actually see through the facade of things not working properly, people aging, getting sick and dying, and all of a sudden you get a glimpse into the ultimate nature of the universe, how things are supposed to be, why things are that way in the first place. And then you go back to this shitty movie, right? But once you've had that glimpse, you know that there's something. And that becomes the track or the course for you to actually dive into that ultimate nature of things which is what in Buddhist philosophy they call wisdom. And then know without any doubt that it's possible to remove old age and death and suffering. And once you know that, then you've got to go to another 5-year course. I know, but what if it was true though? I mean, you know, what if it's true? Then I'll do a 20-year course. What if it's really true? Think about the possibility. What if it's really true? Would you do a 30-year course? What would you do for it? First question, interactive part of the class, and I talked about it. So interactive part of the class. I want to know what you got out of last week, top of mind. First, the thing that you walked away with, let me know, because I need to make this meaningful. Sorry?
3 principal paths.
You remember the 3 principal paths. Can somebody remember what the 3 principal paths are other than Michael? They are? Renunciation. Bodhicitta. Good. No, it's a synonym for correct view. Emptiness is good. So renunciation, these are words we're relabeling. Renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. Are people reading from the board and I'm not aware of it? Sorry.
Go to that.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go. Who wrote the text that we're studying from? Try and figure it out without cheating. Huh? Je Tsongkapa. What's Je mean? Lord or magnificent or great. Yeah, fantastic. Good.
Can we have his date?
Sorry?
Can we have his date?
You can have his date. Someone remember his dates? 1357 to 1419. Great. 19? 19. Yeah. You will see this character come into your life if you stay with this course over and over and over. They are the central figure of what we're learning. It is very important you figure out who this dude is. This amazing philosopher in Tibet. This person who not only got it intellectually, but actually realized some things and changed their experience of their body and their mind through the practice of what we're learning. What's the name of the book that we're studying? Lamtso. It's a Lamrim, which is, what does Lamrim mean? Steps on the path. Lamtso Namsum. Good. Sum. Why did we have this text in the first place? Who did Je Tsongkapa write it for? Is he out there? Yeah. Nawandrakpa. No. Yes. Yes. And then we're reading a commentary by Pabongka Rinpoche. Can someone who's not an old student point to Pabongka Rinpoche on the altar? Someone? Or describe them? Pointy hat, dude, with the pointy hat. Good. And he taught Ken Rinpoche. He taught Trijang Rinpoche. He actually met Ken Rinpoche. Yeah, Ken Rinpoche met Pabongka Rinpoche. He got bonked in the head by him. Yeah. And he taught Trijang Rinpoche, who was, what's something famous about Trijang Rinpoche? He was he translated. He wrote down the book from Pabongka Rinpoche's speeches in the 1920s. But he also current Dalai Lamas. They say junior tutor, but I think that comes from. There's 2 things that I remember it comes from. One is they have the same meaning in Tibetan. Yeah, they just call them junior, I think, because of age. Yeah, so it's not like he's lesser student. The same with the higher colleges or the lower colleges. Yeah, originally it came from being higher or lower on the mountain. Yeah, which is different to the high schools. Yeah. Okay. Now there are 2 things I didn't teach you last week but were on your homeworks and quizzes. Something about a pot. Who found that a problem? Because they had to go and figure out what the hell a pot was. Yeah, thank you. Good. So you did your homework. So what are the 3 problems of the pot?
Well, I didn't find them this time. I figured out where they were, but I didn't find them.
Okay.
I did take another class, so if it's the same, then it's the pot being dirty, so you have your own notions in your head.
Good.
And the pot being upside down, so you're not open to the teachings, and the pot being like a sieve, so you learn the teachings and then you forget them.
Good. Lid closed means you're not open to the teachings. Yeah, I guess. Dirty pot and the leaky pot. Yeah. All about not being in a state of mind that doesn't allow the information to actually touch your heart. Yeah. So I'm a leaky pot. means I've got to learn these things 20,000 times before it gets in my head. I don't know where that came from. I'm trying really hard, right? But I have to learn these things over and over and over. The lid closed on the pot is you're not paying attention. You didn't leave that box outside. You haven't really applied your focus and concentration going, this could really be something for me. And applying that focus and concentration, that's with the lid closed. You're like, I wonder what's for dinner. The dirty pot is, you have an improper motivation. It means, and I've had this in my study. I'm going to pick up because I know Tibetan philosophy. So I'm going to be slightly more attractive intellectually to someone. That's a bit of a dirty pot. That didn't work. I really didn't get many dates. But the motivation wasn't healthy. Trying to get this knowledge for something silly. And you learned the right motivation. Didn't work, did it? And then what are the 3 divisions of a normal Lamrim? So Lamrim texts, there are a few. The greatest Lamrim of all is the Lamrim Chemo by Je Tsongkapa, which has how many pages? 1,000. Good. A lot. There is then a lesser Lamrim by Je Tsongkapa with how many pages? 200. And then a lesser with 14 There's one in between there, but that's okay. The one we're reading is the 14 verses. Yeah. Has anybody read the 14 verses? Put up your hand. Right. It is the most beautiful thing when you start unlocking the code that's inside there. And I'm going to encourage us to read them most classes and then see how our knowledge evolves about what's contained in those 14 verses. Because I bet you now, if you know about renunciation, if you know about bodhicitta, and you know about wisdom, correct view, you can find those 3 segments in the Lamrim, no problem. Yeah, but then as you get to understand what those things are in detail and the path in detail, you'll start uncovering. Each sentence has depth beyond your expectations. It's quite magnificent. And it was always there, even when you didn't know Buddhism. So, thank you for that. The other thing that I failed to do last week, and I apologize, we ran out of time, but I didn't spend some time with you about how to do your homeworks, and there was a little assignment in your homeworks. Who noted that there was an assignment that they didn't know how to do? What was it? The analytical meditation on what? Renunciation, right? So to put it simply, and I encourage you to do this after today, so make yourself a note, yeah? Think about renunciation. We'll find out today why renunciation is the key to beginning on this path to enlightenment. If you can figure out that there is such a thing as enlightenment, and you can reach a state beyond all suffering, in fact a state where everything is bliss, if there is such a thing, it must have a cause. We'll talk about that today. And that must have a cause, and that must have a cause. It's sort of like pass the parcel. Is that what it's pass the parcel? Yeah. But you've got to get to the first wrapping of the parcel, and that's renunciation. My analogy is not good today. So, renunciation. What's a colloquial or a normal way of talking about renunciation? Someone help me.
Giving something up. Giving something up.
What kind of things do we give up? activities, huh?
Bad habits.
Bad habits, material things. So do I have to be a monk and a nun, or a nun? I don't have to be a monk and a nun. Do I have to be a monk or a nun to have renunciation?
Wrong views.
Yeah, you can give up a state of being. Really, renunciation means being fed up, sick and tired of the world turning to shit really quickly all the time. That's all renunciation really means. Sick and tired of things not working out. Sick and tired of these mini cycles of, I found a girlfriend, oh, I hate her. You know? He's my best friend, oh, I hate him. Yeah? I've got a great job, I'm fired. Serious. Giving up that habit is renunciation. The expectation that that's going to be the thing that gets my ticket out of here. I made $1 million. I'm broke. It's this cycle, these mini cycles in this world. Yeah? I've got beautiful hair. It's gone. I'm half bald. I'm fully bald. That's coming. But see, it's not about whether I've got hair or not. This class. No, it's not about whether I've got hair or not. It's about this attachment, this expectation that I've got about that thing meaning something good. Expecting my hair to stay this way because it gives me a certain status or feeling or whatever. Because then when I'm bald, that's gone. And then I go, oh. I mean, it's so basic. When we did this joke, we went and I bought a tea, an iced tea, and I was drinking this iced tea, and then we found this machine. What was it? It was like a toy machine.
Like a Japanese toy vending machine.
Yeah, a Japanese toy vending, and I was so happy I got the right. What did I get? I forgot. SpongeBob SquarePants. I was so happy, like, because there's all these different balls with all these different toys, and I got the one I wanted, right? So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I got SpongeBob, and then I look at my tea was finished. No, my tea's finished. But I've got SpongeBob. No, my tea's finished. Like I'm so divided about. And that's exactly what we do every single day about every single thing we experience. That we got to give up. That's renunciation. I'm so happy. I'm so sad. The first person I met that really talked to me about Buddhism, who wasn't a teacher or anything like this, was this young Indian guy. Lived on East 5th Street, above the Three Jewels, where this place used to be. And he used to look at me and goes, don't get too happy, because you'll get sad. I didn't know what he meant, but it annoyed me. Anyway, renunciation means giving up that kind of thinking. But then you're left with this vacuumous nothing. Oh my God, everything is terrible. Oh my God, It's not like that either. You're replacing it with something. It actually lets you step into a world of possibilities where the opposite of that is real. You give up that way of thinking, your mind's got a room for plenty. And that plenty becomes this path of incredible possibilities. So first you have to get renunciation. And we'll talk today about how you get it. The assignment last week, was to think about renunciation. Catch your mind when you have a flavor of renunciation. You're not going to get renunciation straight away because we're talking about it. It actually is caused by stuff, and it's caused by habit. So start looking at your life and seeing where you've got that state of mind, where you think that's going to make me happy. I've got the SpongeBob. I've got no teeth. When you've got that state of mind, think about it. And when you catch it, and then you let your mind catch it, and you let your mind catch it, you grow that thing. Until you actually walk around the world going, I don't need to think about these things. And then you're not forcing yourself to give away stuff, to get rid of stuff. You actually don't want stuff. It's a beautiful result of having your heart filled with renunciation. For me, the first thing that went was the TV. Really, it was like, what do I need that for? I've already got it here. I know people get sick. I know people bomb each other. I know that, like, you know, and every now and then I catch people watching TV and it's exactly the same story with different faces. Different war, different country, different flood. And I'm not being insensitive about it. It hurts deeply to see people living in this world like that. It hurts more to realize that people with opportunity to shift their consciousness to something incredible are spending their time filling their mind with stuff like that, with stuff you can do zero about. Sitting in front of this TV watching more people being bombed, more people being threatened, more people being hurt. What does it do for you? It just gives you this angst. So you go and get to work and you buy SpongeBob. So the assignment last week, and I encourage you to do it this week, was catch your mind. Well, it was to do a meditation, but catch your mind when it's in a state of renunciation. You know, when I told you about my friend who I called about my godmother, and they told me that their dad had died, I got renunciation. And so if you catch yourself in that kind of situation, think about it and go, I understand the world functions this way. Yeah? You don't have to get sad about it. It's not like, oh, I'm terrible, now I'm inactive. It should be an energizing thing that says, I want to do something about that. So equally, catch your mind. Catch your mind when you see your ignorant state of mind thinking it'll get this ultimate happiness from buying the new toy or getting that yummy pizza again, or, you know, totally falling for that thing, or getting that job promotion over the next person, or getting in front of somebody in the subway at the door thinking I'm going to be happier if I push in, you know, because that's, if you're catching that state of mind, you're seeing where your mind is grasping at what you should be renouncing. Yeah? And then when you see some sadnesses, you can also see your mind's rest. So catch yourself in, and then do that daily. If you do that daily, something will happen. Okay. Any questions so far? People warm? Very quiet in the room. I'm the only one talking. Mu, shi, mu, sum. Say mu, shi, mu, sum. Mushi musum. Mushi musum mebecha. Say that. Mushi musum mebecha. Good. That's what Geshe Roach is a logician. I'm not. We're going to delve into this idea of Tibetan Buddhist logic, particularly around debating. And when you haven't prepared for your debate in the debate grounds in the monasteries because you're lazy, you would say mushi musu mebeecha, which means between two existing objects there's only 3 or 4 possibilities out of the total 4 of things existing. I'll explain what it means, because when I first heard this I was so confused. In fact, I'm still confused. So let's confuse you all. Shi means 4, sum means 3, and mu means the combination possibilities. So there's going to be 4 possibilities between 2 objects. And we're going to call object A and object B. Bear with me for the next 5 minutes, okay? And then we'll try and work it out.
Can I just, there are 4 possibilities.
4 possibilities between 2 objects. Any 2 existing things on the universe, between any 2 existing things in the universe, there's 4 possibilities in the way that they could exist together. Yeah? And out of those 4 possibilities, there's only ever 3 or 4 that are actually real. Yeah? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Let me just write on the board. Mushi musum. Okay. The first mu is something can be A and not B. Let's go A equals sky on a normal sunny day. Yeah? Beautiful sunny day, sky. B, let's call it blue, the color blue. So between these two, skies exist, right? Normal daylight skies exist. The color blue exists. So between these two existing objects, there will be, did I just knock something over? There will be 4 possibilities. The first move 2, move 3, and possibility number 4. And the second one is B, but not A. Both A and B, and neither A or B. Are you following the logic a little bit? Yeah? If it gets confusing, it's okay. It is confusing. But this is a beautiful way to organize any two existing things in the universe and figure out how they function together. So let's get the simple example of sky and blue. So is there something that is sky but not blue? Is there something in the universe that exists that you know of that is sky and not blue?
Cloudy day.
Huh?
A cloudy day.
A cloudy day. But the sky and not blue? Yeah, a cloudy day. No.
The night sky.
Yeah, no, I said in a normal white day. In a normal sunny day, I said, sorry. In a normal sunny day, behind the clouds there's still sky, right? So when you get on an aeroplane and go above the clouds, there is sky that you can look at. So there is sky. Is there something that is sky on a normal sunny day and not blue, a specific kind of blue? Yeah?
Maybe on another planet.
But not here, right? So the answer for that one is no. In our world, in a normal day, this is just simple, you don't have to overthink it, right? Is there something that is sky but not blue in daylight? No, this is blue, maybe in Mars, yeah, but not here, yeah, not to our consciousness. So we've got one move out. Is there something that is blue but not sky? Yeah, Chris's book, yeah, cool. Is there something that is both sky and blue? What? The sky! You guys are logicians already. Is there something that is neither sky and nor blue? Yeah. My black shirt, the room, yeah, etc. Do you have that? Yeah. Chance is not here, which is such a shame. Do you all meet Chance? Yeah? Okay. He was here last week and he wanted something from me and I got it for him, but he's not here so he can't get it. Is there something, let's try it again. Is there something, let's change A to Batman and B to Lego. Yeah? Is there something that is Batman but not Lego? What? Batman. Yeah, the real Batman. Cool. So that's one yes. Yeah? Remember, the answer must always have 3 or 4 yeses. Yeah? You can never have more no's than that. It's hard to describe. Is there something that is Lego and not Batman? Yes. What? Lego something else. Yeah? Starships or something. Good. Is there something that is both Lego and Batman?
The Batman Lego.
Yeah, cool. Which is over here. This was a total setup for Chance. Lego Batman for the Wii. Is there something that is neither Batman nor Lego? Yeah. Okay, so in this case, the possibilities are 4, not 3 like in sky and blue. Got that? Everything in the universe that comes together, that have 2 objects in the universe, must have 3 or 4 yeses. Yeah? Why the hell am I telling you this? Because we want to get to Buddhahood. Okay? And again, I'm going to draw. This is my really, really bad. We don't know what Buddhahood is. Yeah? Like, someone really tell me what Buddhahood is? Really, really knows? You know what's a Buddha? Good. I don't know either. Really, really. Yeah? So there's this cloud of roughness about what we think a Buddha is. Yeah? What it is to be enlightened. Yeah? From that will come This is bad. That's a Buddha sitting down. A Buddha's body.
Someone else be the drawer.
Let's try again. He's got a shoulder. There we go. Is that better? Yeah. There's something called Buddhahood, and then there's this thing that we know that we've been able to label a Buddha, right? And that has to come from something. So these are the causes of Buddhahood which produce the body of a Buddha. Yeah? We're going to talk about that today to try and demystify this idea of what is Buddha. So the reason we learned about Mushi Musum is because and I'm going to rush through this, you don't have to learn it in detail, you just got to know that there's been debates for over 1,000 years in Tibet where they've gone, well hold on, is there something that causes Buddhahood? So everything is caused, right? So something must have caused that thing called Buddhahood. Is there something that causes Buddhahood that is not virtue? That's what the question was when they did a Mushi Musum on it. Yeah? So if you grab Buddhahood and you grab virtue, what out of the 4 possibilities are true? Does that make sense? Okay. In other words, they're asking, does virtue always cause Buddhahood? Really, that's what they're asking. Okay? So first we have to figure out what virtue means. Okay, what's virtue? Someone? What's a virtue? I mean, we live in a Christian world, but what's a virtue for our minds?
Good deed.
A good deed. A good deed.
An action that produces a good result.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's a good deed. Any kind of action of done through your thoughts. An action is a movement of your mind. Yeah, done through your words, what you choose to say, and done through your movement, through your body. They're the only possibilities of an action coming to being from you. Something you think, something you say, something you do. Yeah? A good deed. Something that produces a good result. Both of those are true. Cause and effect. We're going to talk about karma in depth later, so this one you have to sort of go with the flow. Remember we did the lists of Buddhist lists we talked about last week? Yeah? Mm-hmm. So there's a list of 10 virtues or 10 deeds that actually are the summation of the best deeds you could do to do any kind of virtue. Does anybody know them?
Protect life.
Protect life. Good, I'm glad you're doing the virtue. So protect life is a virtue. Think about it. Okay? If things are going to cause Buddhahood and the Tibetans are saying that virtue does it, protecting life has to be a beautiful cause for something positive. You can't get something good out of something bad, right? You can only get something good out of something good. So to get the ultimate good, you must do some pretty ultimate good, right? Some ultimate virtue. So protecting life, the idea that things are alive and conscious, able to move and be conscious like you, and then look for ways to make sure that they are protected, that they are able to continue being conscious. Protecting life is a magnificent virtue. What's another one?
Honor property. Honor property.
Honor others' property.
Yeah, honor others' property. The world is filled with beings. I don't know if many of you have flown, and as you fly over countryside, you see beings, animals and humans, congregating in groups. Australia is a magnificent place. It's big space, desert, lots of land, as big as the United States, 22 million people. Yeah, you guys have 350 million. You have 22 million. You think there's enough room for people to leave each other alone, right? People congregate in 3 cities. Animals congregate around the waterhole. They move in herds. Fish go to school all the time. That was a joke. Thank you for laughing. Yeah. I haven't done too many jokes today. To do more jokes. Knock knock. Interrupting cow.
No.
That's my favorite.
So Protecting others' possessions is a magnificent virtue. Think what it does if your state of mind is imbued with that all the time. If cause and effect work, if what you do is presented to your consciousness in a bigger way, we'll talk about that later, then what kind of results would come from really looking after other people's stuff? They shouldn't have it. I think we should steal it from them. No, I mean, an animal wants to...
My land is on earth, everybody's. I mean, I'm just saying, as a
Yeah.
as the ultimate virtue. Is it really?
It's a good question. What a beautiful question, actually. So she's saying, you know, it's like it's everybody's land. So that's what you're saying, right?
We belong to earth. I
Yeah.
mean, that is...
Think of these suffering beings that are walking. Think of ants who just want to collect their little dirt piles. And you're like, no, piss off, this is my land. You know? So they've just got this consciousness and they want to create a little world for themselves. You know? Make sure that they can have that happiness. Even if you have a more altruistic or a bigger perspective about how things should be, for that consciousness there, to not be interrupted to create their own beautiful environment is a virtue. If you watch yourself do that, you see what I mean? Yep. Okay. Respecting others' relationship is another one. Yeah. What does that mean?
If you know someone has a partner,
Yep.
be mindful of that when you're with them.
Yep.
You know.
Why? I mean, it sounds like a rule. You know, I don't like rules.
It'll create your own future suffering.
How?
And it'll create future projections of your own, seeing your loved ones' relationships fall apart.
Yeah. You'll see magnificent relationships if you make sure you look after other people's relationships. That's all. It doesn't even have to be romantic relationships, you know. And all these things can be intellectual, but when you put them into practice, and then you see results, and you can tell without a single doubt that they came from your things, then you don't have questions about karma anymore. When you see that through a period of time you've worked on one of these virtues, good deeds, and then something in your life utterly changes, your mind cannot not see that correlation. Yeah? It's a beautiful thing. And then you have a big space for happiness there. And I was going to say faith, but it's not really faith. It's faith and logic. So that's number 3. Tell me number 4.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Why?
If you lie, you're going to see people lying to you.
Yeah, I mean, I want to share a story with my dad. My dad used to think that everybody was snooping around his things. So he had 2 padlocks on his briefcase, and that's all he had. He had a briefcase, you know, he had photos and stuff. You know, and then he'd put little bits of paper around the handle, so if you moved the handle and the piece of paper was gone, someone touched it. Yeah. So that's my dad. The thing is that I would get a phone call from my brother every now and then, or my sister, depending on where my dad was staying, and they would have found him snooping around their stuff. You know, so my dad was snooping around my home or whatever, and he'd tell my brother or sister about what they'd found. You know, did you know that Hector had this in his drawer? You know, la 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 la. I love your imaginations. You know. I'm trying to fix that. And so my dad was forever snooping around other people's property, and gradually, you know, the padlocks got tighter and the paranoia around his briefcase got bigger, you know, to the point where he was utterly paranoid. People were really looking at stuff. We didn't care about his stuff, you know, but he'd then complain, someone touched it, you know, like no one touched it, Dad. So it's like the thief. You imagine going to a home and eyeing out a place and going, I'm going to take that bowl, nobody's going to miss it, you know, that little candle holder, nobody's going to miss it. And if your mind is imbued with that all the time and you're just checking it out, and you make a practice of that every other place you go, you're like, I want to pocket that or pocket that. Then when people come to your home or they're in your presence and you see their eyes just looking at your counter, your mind will force you to think they're going to pocket that. do you see how simple it is? I mean, it's not brain surgery, science, whatever the word is. It's that simple. The thief thinks people are going to steal from them. Simple. My dad thought, people were snooping. He was the only one snooping. Yeah? I did go look, no. Oops, I broke the tell the truth one. Bringing people together with what you say. So using your words to make sure that people are connected. People that are fighting with each other. People that are, people are always doing this thing. It's a horrible suffering in our world. So subtly or with whatever you can, just make sure people love each other. We're all going to go through the same transition with this body. People are always going to look for food, and people are always going to look to not get so sick, and people are always going to not enjoy aging, and people, will get relationships and lose relationships, and we're all in the same boat, but we get caught up in these things, and I don't like you anymore. Bring people together, and that plants something in your consciousness that you'll see beautiful things come together in your mind. What's the next one? Speak gently. Yeah, that sounds a bit wussy. What does it mean? Speak gently. These are the 10 virtues, by the way. The 10 top things you could do to your consciousness that will create a strong enough virtue to get you somewhere. Yeah, hopefully to renunciation. No. Speak kindly. Speak with compassion. Does it mean don't say poo?
No.
No? Does it mean you should say poo poo? No. It means, sorry? Yeah, for some you can say the S word, silver bullet. No.
You're gonna like intentionally custody was teaching at Jivamukti, and then you're like, sorry Sharon.
Yeah, no.
Because her whole teaching is teaching there is that, there's another teaching that comes later called the Wheel of Sharp Weapons, and it's basically the karmic correlations, and it's like these causes actually create the reality that's forming around you. True. And my favorite one is stinky smells. And I have a really sensitive nose. I'm always like, it stinks in here. And actually I was like, sexual misconduct.
It's caused by
and
something.
And that's, breaking brahmacharya or not respecting other people's partners or whatever. So, or Allah, who's one of our precious holy teachers, created a maybe we find that and bring that in. Correlation.
Yeah, it's early days for those. It's early days for those.
That's good though, because it's like what are the causes?
Yeah, so we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to the courses, but I just want you to really think about it. What does speaking gently mean? It means speaking so it's gentle for the hearer of your words. So between best buddies, and Geshe used to say this, they used to call each other the dirtiest names, in the monastery. But because they knew they loved each other, and those words were not offensive to those ears, they're gentle words. So, I could have a very strong word with my brother that would utterly offend my mother. In fact, I do. And it's about the audience. It's about when those words land, your consciousness knows the kind of hearing that is grabbing those words. And as you're watching yourself do that, that's what creates the outcome. You're watching yourself saying something that is harsh to somebody, and that takes some training to really figure out how to choose your words with really letting out the intent that you need to have.
In some cases, doesn't that mean not telling the truth to somebody who you don't know for longer than an hour?
No, that's a beautiful question, Chris. I had a shrink once, believe it or not, and she told me that honesty did not mean total disclosure. I thought being honest and telling the truth means, I really don't like your hair, Chris. You know, like, because it popped into my head and I had to say it. You know, like, that does not mean honesty. And I had to learn that slowly, you know, like keeping something in or altering something slightly. So long as the intent is still true, you might choose to keep your mouth shut. That does not mean you're lying, you know. You might just choose to temper your words because you know that for the hearer it would harm them more than for you to be bluntly honest. Yeah? It's a fine line, but it's a beautiful question. It's a lovely, and this means that you're thinking about it. It's magnificent.
But it's also not giving someone the wrong impression.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Because it can be really easy to do that by omission.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's a form of...
But what's happening in your mind as you're balancing these things? What's happening in your mind as you're balancing? Am I lying? Am I bending the truth? Am I being totally honest? You know, what's happening in your mind? Where's the motivation for that? You see? That is what's planting some courses.
What about white lies?
What about white lies?
Like what is more
Give me an example.
Like not like making sure somebody doesn't get hurt. Let's say somebody's very self-conscious and they ask me, do I look fat in this dress?
Like Geshe says, drop your coffee cup or something.
Get out of it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Interrupt the moment. So he has a practice of like dropping coffee cups. You know, it's like, oh, I couldn't answer that. You know, because everyone's like, oh, the cup. I'm so sorry. You know. So when you find yourself in this like frozen, you shouldn't be in a frozen moment. And you will come to situations where there's conflict in your mind about, am I doing this right or am I doing this wrong? You know, am I going too far this way? Guess what? You should make some mistakes. Please make some mistakes. It's better than being frozen. Yeah? You can fix mistakes because you learn from them. Yeah? So you're going to tell a white lie at some point in the next 2 minutes. I'm so late. Anyway, there's these things called the 10 virtues, and they're really good. So then the debate... Okay, let's go number 7. Someone? Huh? Exactly. Only speak things that are meaningful. Don't waste your time just idle talking. I'm going to go quickly for the next one. We'll go into depth later. Being happy when someone gets what they want. Like if you see a total stranger get what they want, allow yourself to be happy rather than wishing it was you. You know, oh, I wish I'd gotten that. Change that. But watch somebody get happy. There's enough suffering in the world without you adding to it. If you really want to change your mind, literally, change your mind. Be happy when a random person seemingly gets something happy, gets to feel happy. Be happy when the person pushes in front of you in the line. Wow, they got first.
That's how someone won the $320 million lottery.
Yeah. See? Be happy, everyone!
Someone pushed in front of them, and they let them go, and they took the next ticket, and that was the winning ticket.
Wow, that's awesome. Thanks, Danielle. Beautiful. Be unhappy when people don't get what they wish for. When you see people struggling, huh?
I was going to say that's for the guy who pushed in front of the line.
That's true. Be unhappy when you see people around you get disappointed. Really get the shits with it. That's an opportunity to really get renunciation. Yeah? You see it all the time. And if you're going to watch TV, watch it with that mindset. And the last one, someone? Correct view. That's a hard one, right? That was really hard for me. Correct view. Don't be wrong. Don't be wrong. That's how I heard it the first time. I was like, damn it, I'm wrong already. Just I'm thinking about it wrong. Correct view. View things correctly. You will be having an opportunity to learn what that means gradually, but what that means at an early level, I guess, of understanding, because I want to go gently, I want you to really get this in your heart, right? Correct view is not about judging, that's wrong and that's right. It's not about that. Correct view is about, we have an upside down way of looking at the world, and it's innate in us as soon as we pop out of mum. Yeah? It's just, we are habituated to think that the world operates in a certain way. And that's wrong. Because it causes the state that we're in, which is nothing beautiful lasts. Nothing that's goodness is sustained in this normal way of being. There's something about viewing reality that we're not doing quite right. Having correct view is really understanding where things truly come from, beyond the layer of existence that we see. There's something behind the layer of reality that we're experiencing every moment of the day. There's something behind that, causing it, producing it. Understanding that is correct view. Once you learn it, to whatever degree you learn it, practice it, look for it, like renunciation, and that will grow that thing. I'll give you an example about it, because you need an example. When I first heard about this, remember I told you I was thick? Yeah? So this is how thick I was. Geshe la, Geshe Michael Roach, holy Geshe Michael Roach. So practice it, Hector. Try thinking about this idea of emptiness or correct view all the time as you're walking down the street. So I'm thinking, as I'm walking down the street, there's trees. I'm going to look at trees with correct view. Trees. It's a tree. Okay. It's still a tree. And I didn't know what he meant. Yeah? There's something about me looking at the tree that was wrong. And I just got frustrated to no end. For years I looked at trees going, what am I not getting about these trees? You know? So allow yourself the miscomfort of playing with this idea of correct view, because I can't give it to you. Yeah? You have to get it from you. And you will get it from you if you learn the stuff that is in this course. And this is the crux of it. Correct view, the idea of emptiness, is it is the line in the sand for Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, for yogic practice, for any of the great practices in the world. Having a correct view is the key. And the more information you get about that, and the more your brain is spending on it, the more your life will shift. The reason I'm telling you about that, and we're going to have a break in just a minute, is because the Tibetans did a mushimusum between virtue and the course for Buddhahood. And essentially they said, is there anything, is A, virtue, and B, Buddhahood? So they said, is there anything that's virtue that is not Buddhahood? So you think about it, is there things in the world that are virtuous that don't cause Buddhahood? Yeah. Like what? You said yes, it's correct.
Yes, I could do a good deed for someone, but that doesn't mean I'm going to become a Buddha.
Perfect. In fact, you all did some good deeds today, and you're not a Buddha. Yeah. Plus, we must have done some kind of great deeds. There are things in the world, where existing things that do virtue. There are virtuous things that didn't cause us to become Buddhists. Yeah. There are deeds that we do with ignorance. Yeah. Without correct view, that produce results that expire. Any goodness that you've experienced in your life today was caused by some other goodness, some virtue, a good deed. Yeah? But if you don't have correct view, it will expire. It's imbued with ignorance. So yes, there are things. It's hard to get. So I'm not going to go into detail, but the bottom line is there is nothing that could cause Buddhahood that is not virtue. That's one of the things that came out of this debate. Are you happy so far? But you can have virtues that don't produce Buddhahood. Yeah? But there's nothing that produces Buddhahood that is not virtue. Are you with me? There's a subtle difference there. And then they go into this idea of, I have to tell you this slowly. Please remove any assumptions you've got about the word Tantra. And if you've studied Tantra with this lineage, please listen with new ears, because you'll get depth. What was the three principal, the name of this text? The three in Tibetan. Lamtso Namsum. Right. What does that contain? 3 states of mind. What are they? Renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view. See correct view again? Okay? There's something important about that thing. Okay. If you have, so Tibetans did for years this mushi musum on can anything produce tantric practice, which is when things start appearing to you. Tantra is secret Buddhism. Yeah, there's the open teachings and then the secret teachings, and they're not secret because my dad's locked them away with 2 padlocks. They're secret because if you don't have a prepared mind, they make no sense at all. In fact, they will harm you if you try and look at them and you don't know what you're looking at, because it'll normalize them. Right? So they did a correlation between, can you have a successful tantric practice, a practice of Mahamudra, let's say, that it's called Great Seal, that lets you achieve the ultimate state of awareness. Can you have that kind of practice without the 3 principal paths? And so they did this correlation, and the answer is no. You can never have Tantra appear in your life. You can't go seeking Tantra. By the way, if you do, and you've gone to many Tantric initiations, and you don't have the 3 principal paths to some degree in your heart, it means nothing to you. It's just some blah blah words and some little tag that you've got on you. I've got initiation, Tantric initiation. Tantric initiation means, secret Buddhism means, when the world around you starts transforming. When the world around you starts transforming into ways that you thought that were possible but you had doubt, and then all of a sudden you see things in your world and you know where they came from, and they are beautiful surprises, and then you know that you can actually achieve this thing. Until then, you sort of have this doubt. You're like trying to figure out, how does it work? And then when Tantra starts waking you up, when it starts appearing in your world, because something caused it, the 3 principal paths, yeah? Then you're that close. Then you can study Tantra. Then you can go to any initiation and actually make these things flower. Yeah? So then there was a mushi musum between the courses for successful tantric practice, where the most incredible realizations change your mind, change your body physically, completely. Yeah? And they said, can you have that kind of thing? Is it mushi or musum between that kind of thing and the 3 principal paths? What I'm trying to tell you here is that you cannot get Buddhahood without the 3 principal paths. You can never get close to Buddhahood through tantric practice without the 3 principal paths. There's no way you can reach enlightenment without these 3 principal paths. I should have said that, and then we would have not wasted any time. So, with that, I'm going to quickly say there's 2 main courses for Buddhahood. One is, and I think it's up there, yeah, Tap. Say Tap. Tap. And say Sherab. Sherab. What's Tap? Anyone? Method. Good. And what's Sherab? Wisdom. The 2 courses for this thing we don't know what that it looks like, for this Buddhahood thing, are method and wisdom. Method is the way you do something, and wisdom is that correct view thing again. So that's a very important thread we've got here. With that said, can you please take 5 minutes, because I've blah-blahed for a long time. Please take some refreshments, cool down, think of something beautiful, think of something bad. Get renunciation and hope for something magnificent, and come back in 5 minutes, quarter past. Talk soon.